Well, good evening, Sonder family. It is March 2nd, which is kind of crazy, hard to believe, but we usually try to offer 4 monthly setups each month. And so this is the last one. And we kind of have this smaller crowd tonight. So I love that. We're going to be able to really hang out. As Michelle said, lots of Gen O this weekend. Yes. Sometimes the weekends just align like that where the availability worked out that, I was kind of one of the only ones available. And then, of course, Maya's husband had surgery and they didn't get out of the hospital in time, so I took Maya's spot. So did a couple of flip-ins, and he, yes, much better today. If y'all have come to a monthly or weekly setup this weekend, you may have heard that Maya's husband had an appendectomy, but it ended up being a little more complicated than it should have been, and he is fine. And hopefully, this is going to be, they're trending upward. But anyway, so yeah, you had lots of me. So if you if you want to lower the volume, just watch the slides. Wait till I go off camera to hear the music. Feel free to do so. But I'm your on screen facilitator tonight, and this event is being recorded. And I'll be the one in front of the camera with the mics on. Everybody else is mics off, cameras off. And then joining me on the call tonight is my sweet young friend in California, Malika. She's going to be hanging with you in the chat. She just popped on to give y'all a wave. So, yes, ma'am. Nicole's my neighbor. Nicole, I'm actually in Central Texas right now. We're checking on the camp house because critters got into the underneath of it. The all the what do you call that? The duct work, and so yay. But normally Nicole and I are just miles from each other because I'm really from Garland, Texas, and we're both in suburbs of Dallas. Anyhow, so say hi to everybody. We're so glad you're here. Love this graphic. That March is the best time to start again because if the spring can do it, why can't you? And somebody had shared at a setup that March was kind of their new year. Like they were still embracing wintering, and so now it's time to wake up and have a new year and set up. Get things going and blooming and blossoming. So. Anyhow, I see lots of familiar names in the chat, and I one of my favorite things is like when y'all start saying, "Oh, I see so and so and so and so," or I know everybody who's here so far. Please come to these setups because you will get to know the best virtual community that you'll ever be a part of. And I see lots of names that I know y'all are double dipping or triple dipping on this March monthly setup this month. So I'm glad you're sitting with your journal and getting ready, getting it to, where you want it so that the month is going to you're going to manifest what you need March to give you. If you're here for the first time, put that in the chat, say me so that we can welcome you. We want to make sure that you feel you'll get some of that love from this lovely community. And yeah, set your chat to everybody because that's how we'll share with each other. I know this morning when I did the weekly setup, we did a lot of sharing about like, I'm feeling this way, but I don't know what word to use. And we were helping each other out there. I do want to shout out, oh, Jennifer, welcome home. Jennifer took a year off and now she's back. We're glad that you're here. And yep, Georgette, thank you. Never too much positivity or planning. I mean, when we're hanging with each other, right? This is the best community. I do want to tell y'all about the exclusive this month. It'll be on the 11th, and it is in honor of International Women's History Month. And I get to hang out with Mayha, and we're going to be looking at honoring the women who shaped us in our life. It's going to be pretty special time. Some really beautiful deep digging into our journals and thinking about the legacies that we've been blessed by, but and maybe be able to take a look at how we're leaving the world for our communities. And speaking of communities, here's the guidelines that we always share when we are together. And I know that you guys see these when you come to any of the socials, but we do want to remind everybody that this is a safe space for everybody. And so We always share these. And also, like number seven, that one's real important, especially if you come to a journal prompt one and we might dig in. And we want to remind you that when you're with your community, that if things ever feel uncomfortable, scratchy, itchy, put it aside and work on it later. There's not an expiration on these journal prompts. They'll always be there for you. So, man, I think the majority of all of you who are here have already done a monthly setup social. It's really good to see your names in the chat again. So I did add this little graphic up in the upper right. I found it today and I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to go add that to tonight's social." That's about the only change I've made to this slide deck. So you're going to see the same stuff if you've joined me before. Sonia, I'm so glad you're here. Um, I love this. Start in March, start on Wednesday, start in your 40s, start at 3:49 p.m., start late, just start. And I think, yep, I think that's one of the beauties of our journals and the fresh pages every month. We get to start again. We have this beautiful theme of change. We did alignment, which led into looking at our belief system. And now that we kind of know who we are, we're going to think about how change affects our life. So, somebody mentioned that they noticed, A, alignment, B, beliefs, C, change is next month, D. And spoiler alert, it is not. But that was pretty good noticing. I was very impressed. And I love this quote by Mother Teresa: I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And I mean, even just hanging out with each other tonight, are already spewing positivity. And so we can't help but catch that. And that's where we can affect change in our lives, but also in the lives of those who are around us. So I do want to point you to Meha's welcoming letter. We like to spend a few moments just kind of calling out some things that maybe caught our eye. And I really do encourage you to read this every month. Magazines always have the letters from the editor, and I'm guilty of not reading those. But Meha's letters always kind of talk about like why this theme, what's behind it, the ideas, and what it's bringing about for her. And I think it helps us start wrapping our brain around the new theme. The things that jumped out for me, she said some of the most meaningful shifts in my life were the ones I resisted at first. And I sure can relate to the idea of why did I make that so hard? It ended up being okay, and I made it harder than it was, right? So my best friend's name is also Jennifer. She goes by Jen, and we were hanging out Friday, and we were talking about what our theme is this month at Silk and Sonder. She's always real interested in what I do, and I told her change. She said, "Ooh, change is a good one." She says, "That one's hard." She says, there's tough change that's really hard, but she said, even good change can be hard. I was like, "You're right." So, we might be resisting it a little bit. There are some folks who are like, "I love everything about change." So it's going to be fun to explore this together. Also, Mehal writes, transformation doesn't mean abandoning yourself. It means returning to the part of you that was always meant to lead. That part that's there that maybe, you need to, it got tamped down. So we're going to change some things so that it shows back up. And change doesn't always need to be loud to be life altering. Sometimes it's quiet decision, ease, and trust. And so that's kind of the stuff that popped in for me. You guys are awesome. Thank you for, it's okay that you're late. We're just so glad that you're here. I love, Peg, that you read those letters from the editors. I need to start doing that because like Mayha's letter is always gold. I always say it's our love letter. So tonight we're going to start with that traditional monthly acrostic poem. Now, if you've already been to a setup, I've got those alternate activities as well. Or if you're just not feeling an acrostic poem, you might latch onto one of the other activities that we'll share tonight. The whole idea is just to sort of get the juices going with our brand new theme. We'll spend some time reflecting over what February brought our way. We'll set up our March intentions and then we'll work on those too. two trackers, the mood tracker and the habit tracker. So let's start off. We do not have an acrostic page this month. Sometimes our journals do have an acrostic page, but this month we have to create one. So turn to a notes page or a scrap piece of paper. Maybe I used on the index page where it says notes, I use that space. I'll show you mine in a minute. Maybe you have a sidekick journal. And just kind of start thinking, what does change mean? What do I think of when I see those letters CHANGE? How can you frame that out to where it sort of embraces things that mean change to you? You can do one sentence, you can just do a word for each letter. Maybe the word change is actually in the middle of a sentence that you write. So the first sentence has a C word, tucked in the middle, and then H is a word tucked in the middle. So there's not a right or wrong way. This is not English class. We won't be grading this. So here are some examples from our Sonder family. They were kind enough to share in Sonder Club. If one of these is yours, thank you. Mine is that little one over by itself where it says notes, like on the index page. And I always kind of I'm trying so hard to embrace my second chapter, the second act of my life. And so that is a lot of times where I go with my acrostic poem. So this month I just wrote, Can I really be here? The second chapter. Amazed at its arrival, newfound opportunities for growth and vitality, which is my word of the year, aging and embracing new beginnings and endings with joy and gratitude. So, oh, thank you, Malika. And oh, Jennifer, that's your word of the year also. That I'm trying to like have more of a, a health focus. It's getting more and more important every single year. So that's the direction I took with that in that little notes section on the index page. And then um, lovely Maya threw together this slide with some really good change poems for us. Sonia's already sharing her poem in the chat. So, Sonia, maybe you'll want to do an additional activity to open up our time together and some suggestions, or you could do another acrostic with the word March, with the name of the month or your name, or if there's like you're having a birthday, you could do a birthday acrostic poem for yourself. Or maybe there's a relationship you're really grabbing onto this month that you're really going to focus on, and you could grab that person's name and write an acrostic poem. When was the last time you wrote a haiku? One of our Sonder family members wrote this haiku there, a transformation, something new from something old, evolve, awake, grow. She said, it's been, I don't remember what she said, something like, 27 years since I've written a haiku. And she wrote a haiku based on change. You could also write a goodbye note to February and a welcome note to March and kind of personify it. Write to the months like you're writing to a friend. And you could also spend a little time with that definition page, page 3, that box. Like, what does change mean to you? I wrote just a few words that popped into my head immediately, which was willingness, flexibility, excitement, courage, and open mind. And then I also wrote the serenity prayer. I have alcoholics in my life, and so I do a lot of my Al Anon work to be able to take care of myself. And the Serenity Prayer is a big part of Alcoholics Anonymous and the Al Anon program. And so that popped into my head when I heard change. And it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So I kind of put that in my what it means to me box. So I'm going to stop talking and give you some time to work on this and share. You're already sharing. Oh, Nicole Jenny wrote that for you. Awesome. Going to encourage you to maybe explore another option if you've already done your acrostic and kind of embrace the idea of change. I will also encourage you maybe get your February journal and look at the acrostic you wrote about belief last month and how does that sit with you? Would you change anything there? It's kind of fun to do that reflection. So let's work on this for a little bit and then we'll get going with our monthly setup. All right, great way to open up this session together. Thank you for sharing in the chat. Oh, I love that Peg. She's kind of holding off on the definition of what change means to her because she kind of wants to be more accepting of changes. And yeah, for sure. When you have big changes that cause a journey of grief, you need to be gentle with yourself. So I love that you're just being open to see what the world brings you through this. And I always find it interesting. Sometimes these themes will hit at times when you're like, oh, okay, here we go. So be gentle as you look at that. But thank you for that honesty and for sharing that. Kind of reminds us all, again, that permission to give yourself the space that you need. It'll always be here. You can work on it when the time feels right. So yeah, let's now jump into March. We're going to take a look at what February brought your way, the wins, the challenges, and the favorite moments, as well as considering what we want to start, stop, and continue. What do we want to bring forward or leave behind? I'm going to break this up into two little sessions here. So let's focus first on our February reflections. Let's think about the things that really brought you a lot of joy, those wins. If you did the rosebud thorn reflections last month, this is going to be like those roses and some of your buds, the things that, made you feel accomplished, or even like the people that you spent time with. Conversely, on the other side of the coin, we know that February had some challenges for folks. And so, what were those stumbling blocks? What made you feel frustrated, or what things were out of control? Or I always say, what made you frustrated? Who made you? Who made you frustrated? Those things that just didn't go the way you wanted them to go. But then think of your favorite moments. And we always suggest looking back through like your phone screen. What did you take pictures of? Perhaps go pull up your calendar and see where you dedicated time, and you may have forgotten about that meeting that you had that you were like, yeah, I tore it up, yay. And let's celebrate those things as well. Oh, and I've also said, go check your credit card statement. What did you spend your money on? Was it happy things, or challenges? Did new tires on the car, or the things that aren't fun. But we're going to spend a little bit of time working on this, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the bottom section with the start, stop, and continue spaces. And again, just share as you're comfortable in the chat. We want to know what you're celebrating from the month, and also where you might feel like you could just use a little more support, or it just feels better to share with some folks. And then I'll be back for the second part of this page. I just love that song. It is, by Vitamin String. It's played by Vitamin Strings Quartet, Wide Open Spaces. But it always makes me think when I hear Vitamin Strings Quartet, I always think of Bridgerton. That was actually one of my favorite moments. Is I got Bridgerton all watched up, and so that was fun. And my February challenges, I got, my favorite moment was actually being able to finally go on vacation, a trip that we've planned with my husband's sister and her husband for years. We finally did it. But the challenge with that is I came back, I've been all out of whack, just not in rhythms and routines. So the yin and yang of everything. Yeah, I got caught up last night, Michelle. It was my last, I snuggled in bed and watched it. The costumes. I mean, I don't even have to listen to the words. The costumes are so amazing. Anyway, so thank you for sharing, for spending time with those reflections. Now continue to work on those. But I want to drop down to the bottom part of this page and talk about this start, stop, and continue space. I really like this space because I think it helps us determine what we want to bring forward into the next month and maybe what we need to stop doing. What do we need to leave behind? It really serves as like that foundation for the rest of the month, for how we set up our intentions and the goals from week to week and the habits and the activities we want to do. So, of course, the start are the things you want to start doing that you're not doing. A lot of folks will just put a little RE in front of that and say, I want to restart. Like, was there something you were doing and you've gotten out of that rhythm and routine? And so you want to restart, you want to bring it back to your life. That's the kind of thing that goes in this box. Of course, the things that are not working for you, that where maybe you need to set some boundaries, you need to say some no. What things do you need to say no to? That goes in the stop. And then, of course, we need to celebrate the things that we are doing well. And so, really dig in and think about what you're doing that you are proud of, that you want to bring into the next month. Now, yes, this example down at the bottom, I love to think about asking yourself the question, what is it? What is the thing you want to start? And then looking at your why, because when you commit that to paper, it can be very powerful to see the reasoning behind that and then how. So that little thought about, okay, I do want this. I want to get into a regular morning routine because if I have better mornings, it's just a better way to start each day. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to set up a specific routine in order. And then this may show up in that weekly setup with a little, tracker, or you list the things in the Mind Body Health Plan. Like I do this every morning. The next one is what is it? I want to stop eating so much junk food and sweets. Why? Well, I need to feel better and lose the weight I've gained. Well, how am I going to do it? I'm going to track my eating and keep less in the house, like probably less temptations. So, asking yourself the what, why, and how can really make this a very powerful exercise. Additionally, you could focus on one thing, like give this little area a theme. So, maybe the theme could be something like nutrition or rest. And so I really want to, start getting much better rest. I want to have a better sleep routine. So you would put what you want to do to start that. What is that going to look like? Maybe you ask yourself those questions. And then what do you need to stop doing all about that rest? What is sabotaging a good rest routine? And then what do you want to continue? What are you already doing that needs to carry forth into this? So you could make this very topical. Also, if there's a relationship that you're really wanting to focus on, you could name the name this box, hubby or best friend or daughter, and then just focus on what you want to do for that relationship. So you could really hone in and focus on just like one theme for that. So that's really great. Some ideas to set this up. And you can kind of repurpose this space. And this is a technique that one of this is a slide from the Silk and Sonder Instagram account. But we ask ourselves, I feel whatever. How do I feel? And it's because of A or B, but I want to feel this way. And putting this down in writing can really give you like again a compass or a foundation. So this one says, I feel tired and heavy because my sleep hygiene is off and IOP is a lot. I'm not sure what that is. Those are initials for something. If you know, if you have an idea, drop that in there. And then it says, "What do I need? I need a purposeful routine I can sleep to, I can stick to." So now we've got this written out, and it can guide what the rest of the setups like. What does your weekly look like? You're setting goals and habits and the to-dos to make this happen. So again, I love this space. So let me put on a little more music while you finish your reflections, and then you drop thank you, Nathania, for dropping that in there. Intensive outpatient. I should have known that because my brother's in that right now. So let's look at this bottom space, finish those reflections, and then let's think about what goes in this foundation space, this start, stop, and continue box. Let us know if you're comfortable in the chat, how you're using it. Nathania, it's hard to believe it's been a year. Thank you for sharing that in the chat, and we're really glad that you're here with us. And again, just take what you need tonight. And again, thanks for sharing. Oops, whoops, I'm getting a little heavy on my mouse there. So let's take a look at those intentions. You've got a really good starting jumping off place from this start, stop, and continue reflection. And you're going to find your intentions on page 9. Um, I love the How to Love Yourself March edition with those beautiful reminders to respect your growth, Surround yourself with positive people, challenge that negative self-talk, allow yourself to make mistakes, take responsibility for your health, and validate your feelings. Thought that was a really beautiful graphic as we welcome in a month of change. And then our March intentions: Magnificent March, Mindfulness March, Meditation March, Make It Happen March, Motivation March. Maybe some of those words will inspire you. As we go through, we'll look at some examples of folks in some of their intentions that might help you figure out what you want to put in your spaces. I did want to talk about this graphic. In sometimes it's hard to like know where you sit with intentions, and I thought this is a pretty nice way of explaining it. That intentions will help manifest your goals. And so when you think about intentions, think about them as the energy you put in at the very start of something, and it's really focused on like the feeling that you are having about that thing. Whereas when you're looking at those goals, that's where those results start showing up and what you want to accomplish. The timing for intentions, it's like right now, what are you thinking? It's very short term, whereas a goal is kind of that future projection. You're setting yourself up with a plan of action for later. The priority for intentions is that you are really focused on how you want to feel, the emotions that are affiliated with all these spaces on this page. It really dives into the relationship you have with yourself, whereas your goals, very results oriented. There's going to be this idea of external achievement. And the scope of intentions are very broad and very vague, whereas goals, you know, how we just always talk about pinpoint, make them specific and measured and time bound. They're very narrow. And an example at the bottom there, it's like you might say, I want to feel more focused. But a goal would be I'm going to meditate 4 times for 20 minutes every single week. So you can see kind of that difference there. So I hope that that helps if that's something that, you know, makes you a little anxious when you're thinking, like, I don't know how to get these intentions out on the page. Keep it simple. That's a good rule. It says it's much more about how you want to feel and a little less about what you want to accomplish. You'll do all of that in those other things that we set up. So this month, of course, it's actually International Women's History Month, National Women's Month, Irish American Heritage Month. It's National Reading Awareness Month, and this week is Read Across America Week. And then it's Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, and I believe it's Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. And there was one other that someone had shared. So if there's something that you are like focusing on because it's meaningful to you, drop that in the chat. Like if there's an awareness that that's it. Thank you, Amanda. I knew I was missing one. Epilepsy Awareness Day is the 26th of this month. You might have some birthdays, or maybe we have some birthday gals with us. If it's your birthday this month, drop that in the chat so we can celebrate our Pisces and our Aries girls. My baby brother, I'm like 13 years older than him. He was born on March 4th. I've always said it's the only day that gives a command. I think that's such a fun day. So yeah, some fun things there. Some tips and tricks for setting these intentions. You might want to think about what they could look like. What are you feeling about like any kind of changes in these areas? Of course, leaning into self-love or self-talk or using song lyrics or quotes or a title of a song. Really think about how you want to feel. Stickers, colors, images, scrapbooky style. And then we also love the idea of duality, the like a thing to let go of and a thing to start doing. Something you want more of, something you want less of. So let's look at some examples. Oh, and if you're not sure what to do, just grab you some post-it notes as you're working through this, and maybe as you start thinking about your habits and your goals, then that will drive how you fill in this intention space. You don't have to have it filled in right now. We suggest, you don't have to do all six of these areas. Maybe choose the top three or four for the month, like this example you see here. They left those bottom two spaces. One's available for a favorite quote, and one's available for a verse, a scripture. And then, of course, you're always invited to change any of these categories to better fit what's going on in your world. I'm an early retiree, so I don't really have professional goals, but I do have learning goals each month. And I try to do a lot of stuff that will help support, like the Silk and Sonder stuff that I do, but also things that'll keep my brain active. But you can see it's not an exhaustive list, but this is what I've seen a lot of y'all change some of these categories to. So, like home management or home life, mental health, adventure, learning, creativity, connection, self care. Maybe you have a seasonal or a holiday box. Maybe you're looking at, a Lenten journey, or it might, perhaps you're embracing Purim or Ramadan. There's a lot going on in the springtime. So perhaps that happens in one of these spaces. Outside work, maybe focus on your word of the year. So let's look at some examples. There's that example of the more and the less. So more peace, less anxiety for spiritual health. But look at that bottom. Instead of money management, they've created a space to write the word create so that they can be intentional with how they're going to organize the days in their month to be able to have moments of creativity. That's so important. So they wanted that to be very focused. And yeah, like Sonia's saying, professional goals are retirement for her now. How is she embracing retirement? A single word. Remember how I was saying keep it simple? There's example of a single word. And then we've got some quotes over there, which is just a lovely, lovely page. There are song titles, and this person did song titles, and then they did a I want statement. So under each one of these spaces, so like personal life says a little bit off is the song title, and then she's written, I want to be happy with myself. Um, and then of course, I love, love, love this one in the middle. I love to pull this up for March. Your intention is a little pot of gold, and then some steps you're going to take becomes what you write in the rainbow. So I thought that was just a fun reminder if you want to make some little doodles in these spaces and set your intention up like that. And then the one on the right, embrace, is this person's word of the year. And so they are using their word of the year to guide that. And you'll notice money management has been changed to brain health. I love that. I might change my learning goals to brain health goals. Home and garden is now their professional goals. So love that one. Oh, really, Sonia? I love that one with the little tell her we're still using it. It's still showing up because we all love it so much. And yeah, so let's get going on these intentions and share in the chat what you're going to be doing if you change anything up, or if you need a little boost with some words or how to put something, drop that in the chat because this community is gold. Y'all are the experts, and we can help support each other as we set up intentions for the month. Peg, I love that you said you use Dr. Seuss quotes as to add a little bit of whimsy to your page. That is such a good idea. And I think tomorrow is Dr. Seuss's birthday. So that's perfect timing that you're doing that. Maybe we should all go to the library and check out a Dr. Seuss book tomorrow in his honor. And I've been pushing to go to the library. Like we've got to use our libraries. So now let's turn to pages 10 and 11. We're going to be taking a look at those two trackers. We'll start with the mood tracker. We love this tracker. It can help us see trends that, how we're feeling. It helps us make shifts when we see those trends. And it will give us an opportunity to maybe think about some tools we need, or we start noticing things when we look at this tracker. And we suggest that, you use maybe if you're going to use, now this tracker gets repurposed a lot. I will also suggest if you love this tracker, maybe make a copy or two of it for like to track other things. If you need a tracker at your desk, or you want a tracker in, the kitchen for some things you want to do every day. Just make copies. I love this tracker. But we can look at two or three negative feelings, maybe a neutral feeling, and a couple, three positive feelings. And I've got that mood or that feelings wheel to share with you. And there's a lot of ways to check in with yourself. You can sort of think about at the end of the day how you would rate that one overriding feeling for the day, or you could figure out a way to sort of put little dots or symbols, and kind of for all the things that show up for you. It really depends on how much you want to track there. And we've got some examples for you to see how our Sonder family has set this up. So here's that feelings wheel. You'll notice the core feelings in the middle are a great place to start with tracking feelings, but you'll see the little pie slices will help. It adds a little more detail to some of those main feelings. So, Sonia's saying she did happy, blah, and then okay, three moods: happy, blah, and sad, and then the three energy levels. Did you feel high, good, and no motivation? Yeah. And so you could correspond them. Maybe you felt happy, but you didn't have much motivation that day, and it kind of you can watch those trends. So I'll be sure that I come back to this feelings wheel so that you can look at all the different feelings that you could choose from to drop in there. And that, yes, the Inside Out emotions is so great. And if you haven't seen that movie, it's a really, really good movie. Might be time to rewatch that one. Here are some examples. We have the mood tracker that's round. We have the mood tracker that's a hex with the hexagons. And as Amanda said, she's team hexacircle. She's just glad to have a mood tracker. It doesn't matter to her. I like to always point that out, though, in case somebody's looking at this tracker for the very first time. The tracker all the way over there on the right, they actually took those major moods, and like you see joy, and then they put some of the different words that could also mean that feeling of joy, like pleased and satisfied, amused, happy, delighted, eager. So they kind of did a little cutout there and plopped that in the middle of their tracker so they could really hone in on the feeling they're having. I also like the idea of the one on the bottom left where they woke up feeling a certain way and went to bed feeling a certain way. So they're kind of looking at how they started the day and how they ended the day. Like, did it end better than it started? Or if not, what was going on? Another tip I'll give you is maybe highlight your days that look different. So, what I mean by that is maybe you have a traditional Monday through Friday job, and so maybe you'll draw around your weekend days because you may notice some trends based on your work days or your weekends. Or if you work shift work, maybe you draw a line, draw around the days that you are off. And so you can look for trends in the tracker based on where you're hanging out. And then we have lots of ways to repurpose this tracker. Here's a list of a few of these, and I'm going to go back through these while you work on them. Now, this mood tracker is tracking a lot of moods, but they also, their very first space says, was I feeling tired or drained? And so that's a like a physical thing that we're paying attention to. And that's a really good thing too, not just how you're feeling emotionally, but how you're feeling physically. And does that correlate with anybody? Well, Alyssa, thank you for sharing so that we could pull this and share with everybody. And you were doing lots of check ins in the day because I see your scribbles, and I love seeing the completed tracker because it helps us kind of get the feeling for, how you were making that work. And then I noticed that you labeled your days Monday, Monday through Sunday, so you could see what days were what. And you were on vacation from the 17th to the 26th. And so that's another trend to see, were your days better when you were on vacation? So thank you for putting that there so we could all benefit from that. The mood tracker over there on the upper right, you can see there's a midday check-in, and then we're checking in at night. Do I feel calm or do I feel anxiety? So at night, doing like a 2-point check-in, and then looking at the other things in the midday. And okay, Alyssa says she made the bigger blobs for feeling more of that. That was a really good idea. So look at all those pretty green blobs on your vacation. I think you had a good vacation. I also like the idea of the intention check-in. So you set those great intentions, and you're using this tracker to go and hold yourself accountable to check in daily with one or more of the intention areas that you set for yourself. I love that we see all that good green stuff on your vacation days. You were calm. You went back to work, you got back to stressed. There is an example of an old book tracker of mine. I usually use mine for a book tracker. The one above on the right is a mood boost tracker. So this person is thinking, okay, if I'm feeling a little off, what will boost my mood? And I have these things to choose from. Maybe have a fruit or vegetable, go for a ride, go for a walk, listen to worship music, maybe take a nap, enjoy fellowship. So I kind of like that little twist on if I'm not feeling great, what can I do to boost that? There's a physical care tracker. There is an activity tracker. That includes some family time, some crafts, sit with my journal, take a rest. And I love this one. It is the moon cycles, and it has been it's been made transformed into a moon tracker. So you can see they kind of made an N where the D was. And then they're tracking the garden things that should happen, the planting that should happen during the certain times of the month based on the moon cycle. So I love that. Many of us are fighting with our social media use, and this person's going to track it every day to see how many minutes they're on. They're going to give power to that tracker by saying if I did less than 30 minutes, if I spent 30 minutes to an hour to an hour and a half. And, I mean, the evidence is going to be right there on that paper, and having to turn to that page and have that self accountability is going to make that person really aware of that social media use. And maybe you have a small business, and so you could use this as your tasks that you need to do for your business. And yeah, so let's work on this tracker. And I'm going to go back. I'll hold on that feelings wheel for a little bit so you can look at all of those. And we'll get this set up and let us know what moods are you tracking or how are you going to repurpose. righty. I'm excited about how you're going to use this tracker next month, tracking those moods, seeing what it tells you, see what kind of changes you can do. Really pay attention to the days that you have certain feelings and maybe notice your environment. I always wonder what it would have looked like when I was starting to feel really burned out at work, what my mood tracker might have looked like during that period. Silk and Sonder didn't exist then. So, anyway, thank you for working on that. And now let's set up this habit tracker, which this one is just so good. We're going to try to do some habits most days of the month, and that's what should show up here. Now, I'm going to point you back. Go look at that stop, start, and continue box that you filled out. Are there things to start that could go in this habit tracker? How can you support those things you wanted to do for the month? What do you need to stop doing? That's also a good thing to track. And then the habits that you're going to continue, those are kind of those gimmies. You want to set yourself up for success. So perhaps some of those things show up here. I know this is a grainy image, but somebody is going to, this is a little bit older, but all of their habits on their habit tracker have been directly informed by the intentions that they set. So they want to walk 5 miles a day, and their physical health goal was walk 153 miles for the whole month. And so that's just kind of how they're holding accountability to their intentions. Another way of making sure that you're looking at those frequently. So I wanted to bring that in. Of course, you can set this up for looking at changes and maybe some things that you're thinking about for the month. Remember, you don't have to fill in every line. Maybe you have a theme. If you themed your stop, start, and continue, maybe this also shows up, that theme, that relationship, or that theme of your health shows up here in this habit tracker. We've got some fun examples here. You don't have to fill in every line. Like I said, you can see this person kind of drew a line right through the middle, and they have three things, a space, and three more things. And notice how this example on the left, how their weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, are blocked off. They've kind of drawn a line around them. Again, maybe you sort of give yourself a little grace on the weekends for some of these habits. Maybe they don't show up because it's the weekend and you're giving yourself that time off. This one over here, oh my goodness, it is so creative. I love it. I'm a black check mark person, so I admire this one, but I don't know that I would have the patience to do it. But it's beautiful, and they're just putting in little shapes to create their own mandala for the month. We've got some notations around the outside of this habit tracker for a vacation and for being out of town. And I love this one on the left because every day has been acknowledged. If they did the thing, they gave themselves a heart. If they didn't do the thing, they've acknowledged it by doing little, they've done those little marks through each one of those spaces. And I want to remind you, you hear me say it a lot, so I know I'm repeating, but when you don't get something done, that's also data about your day. It's neutral. You just didn't do it. It's also part of your story. So I love how this person is acknowledging, tracking food. Well, they didn't do it on the second or the fourth or the fifth or the sixth, but they acknowledged that. They just went in. So I think, that little reminder that the blank spaces, it's part of the tracking. It's just data. It doesn't make you less than for not doing it. This one on the right, they're tracking four things. And then here's some more examples. And then I shared with somebody, I forgot now who's trying to eat more vegetables, but this person is going to use this tracker as a veggie tracker, and they're going to track the number of servings for each day. So on the 1st, March 1st, if they ate 3 servings of veggies, they're going to color in 3 of those spaces under the number 1. March 2nd, so they have 5 of those boxes are going to get tracked. So this whole tracker is committed to that vegetable intake because that is something that's very important to them. So you could really hone in on the one thing that you are working on. And then we have some habit tracker ideas for you if you're looking to add something new. So let's put on a little bit of music and share in the chat what you are going to be tracking this month. Malika and I so enjoyed hanging with y'all tonight. Y'all had your nose down, your head down. You worked, you got this journal set up. You are ready for a great month ahead as we get to explore this idea of change together. I'm real excited about that. Let's encourage you to share your planner in Sonder Club. Would love to see like some of your completed planners. I think that's a really nice thing to get to see. Like how did it go? Maybe February post like, okay, here's the end result. Would love to see that. And just that shout out to our personalized coaching. Malika is going to drop a lot of links in here for you to be able to go check out coaching, to sign up for more events ahead. Think about coming to that women's exclusive that'll be on the 11th. And then, of course, this and 1,200 recordings are can be found on the YouTube channel. So we'll encourage you to go check that out as well. I love that. Sonia, she says, my last habit every month has to do with the theme. So this month it's change is good. I love that. That's a nice way to incorporate the mindfulness of embracing the theme. So thanks, y'all, for spending the evening with us. And here's to a great March.